Well, tell me, mama, what's going on? Tell me, darling, what's going on?
Welcome back, everybody. Bacon and Egg Show, episode number 52, May 24th, 2021. Another Monday edition here. Jay, what's going on? I hope you're not having a case of the Mondays, are you?
Just another manic Monday down here in Buda, Texas, the Buda location of the Bacon and Eggs Incorporated, I guess. The Buda locale of Bacon and Eggs Inc.
Yeah.
Doing good down here, not too crazy, but we're doing all right. We're hanging in there. Got a little sunlight today, man. What's that like?
I don't know. Up here, it's still a little gloomy over here. We'll see if we'll see what happens, but it's fitting for a Monday, I guess. But man, what's going on? We gonna be kind of a short show today. Not a lot's happened since we recorded midweek. I mean, we've got more trophies and more teams over at 40 Acres advancing and all that stuff. If you want to open up there with a cup of coffee.
Yeah, let's get on in a cup of coffee, man. So let's kick off the show, lighting the tower orange with the Texas women winning the tennis championship over the weekend. So congratulations to them. The tennis program on the 40 Acres has been pretty successful in recent years, man. Like it's just this out of nowhere, I guess. I know that they've always been all right, but winning national championships, because didn't the men just win one as well?
Yeah, that's it. I'm glad you mentioned that, because so the women won the national title this week. The men, they lost in the national semifinal, but last season, amidst the academic cheating scandals and all that stuff, and the coach gets fired, and I think is he serving jail time right now for that whole bribery thing?
It's federal stuff, man. He might be. That's the Lori Loughlin stuff right
there.
Yeah. The getting kids into school on fake sports scholarships. That's right. So go ahead.
Well, it just and what a story that was with an interim coach coming in to fill in for the guy that's facing federal bribery charges or whatever, and then they go on and win a national title.
Yeah,
I mean, they were supposed to be a good program, but to go and win a national title in those circumstances and then to make it to the national semis this year is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that tennis coach put the racket in racketeering. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you guys. That's the show.
Have a good week. There we go. We'll see you.
We'll see you.
Oh man,
sorry.
That's a tough.
To do it.
That's
I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. It's only going to be downhill from here. So, well, all right. That's a great way to kick things off. Let's bring the mood down a little bit now and talk about last night's Austin FC match. I bet they're having a case of the Mondays today on the return flight home from Nashville. It wasn't pretty. Nashville gets a 1-0 win. Austin FC has now lost 3 in a row. Hasn't scored a goal since, what was it, the first 10 or 15 minutes or so, the Minnesota game?
Gallagher
scored early. Then they didn't score again the rest of the match. They got the win, but then didn't score against, actually, I take that back. It was the Kansas City, the first goal against Kansas City, then didn't score again in that match, didn't score against LA Galaxy, and then shut out again against Nashville. There's a lot to take away, I think, from last night's match. What are the things that initially jump out to you? The big theme things here without kind of looking at the match in a vacuum, like more kind of the general narrative from game to game.
When we saw the lineup come out, we immediately said, okay, the midfield crew that we want to see play together and gel together is there. So, and in a sense, it sort of gave me a little bit of hope, because we saw positive things from that group early on, before when health wasn't a factor and everybody was just playing at their top form. Now we're 6 matches into the season, guys are starting to get nicked up a little bit, and lineups are, and Josh Wolf is also playing with the lineup to sort of just feel for what he has, and to see those midfielders in the starting 11 last night before the match started, and then to see how it was disheveled, it was disoriented, it was sloppy to be, just to get down to the lowest common denominator. And it was disappointing to see that from not just some of those midfielders that we've come to expect a little bit more from, but from the captain, Alex Ring, specifically, coming off of that one match ban for the red card that he received at Sporting KC. It was just disappointing to not have that link through the middle, especially until some substitutions were made. That it just wasn't there, Kerry, and that's a concerning factor to me coming out of this game. Is we're expecting Austin FC to start to gel a little bit more together, to learn how to play together better, to learn to play as a unit in tough situations. And last night, it just felt like they were being peppered and nobody had a response. And the midfield just was a big part of that.
Yeah, that the midfield for me. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, we saw the lineup come out and we're like, oh, hey, the core midfield that we had seen earlier in the season that performed so well with Pochettino, Pereira, and Ring. Like, here we go. This is it. There's no more, like we had the registration issue with Pochettino earlier in the season. Pereira got nicked up, Ring suspension. Now they're all back together. And I mean, as a unit, they were bad. I think Ring stands out the most to me, though. The first 10 or 15 minutes, he had a couple just terrible turnovers in the midfield that led to direct scoring chances for Nashville. And that was, he was giving away bad fouls. We talked about him, kind of how he plays on that edge, and this is just one of those things you have to deal, going to have to live with Ring. And I don't know how he did not end up getting booked last night, because there were multiple times cynical fouls, professional type fouls, like things that any ref would just go, okay, you're getting cautioned here and calm it down. He was arguing with the ref constantly. He was bickering, getting in the face of Nashville player. I mean, it's just how he is. But he didn't put in the performance to kind of back that up, to where you go, okay, well, we're going to take the good with the bad here. I know Wolf wouldn't have done it. I would not have necessarily been against him coming off at half. It just was not. Maybe it's a fitness. I don't know. Maybe him being out, it's missing the last match. I don't know. But collectively, the midfield wasn't great. And it certainly doesn't help. I sent you this last night. I think it was at a halftime. The charts showing the passing and how there was, the link up play, the passes going from each player to each player and all this thing, like the web, whatever the official name for that is. And there was one player on there that didn't receive a single pass that was not part of that web. And it was the striker, Danny Hosen, who we've talked about. And Josh Wolf has talked about as a guy that the reason he starts is because of his link up play. A guy that can receive the ball, that can hold the ball, distribute out to the wings, do those kinds of things. And we had none of that. So when you don't have that, it certainly doesn't help the midfield. And it just feels like they got flat out beaten every facet. Maybe the exception of goalkeeper, because Stuver kept the thing in reach again with a couple huge saves in the second half to keep it, keep it from getting embarrassing. But what do you want to see at this point, Jay? Like, we're 6 weeks in. What are the changes that need to happen for this team to start? I think it'd be safe to say a point would have been acceptable last night. I think that was probably the expectation. Nashville went into the game unbeaten last night, but like they're a team that gets draws. I know they play really well defensively, but this from what we've seen of Austin, this should have been able to get a point in the standings last night. What needs to change?
Nashville is like an Aston Villa type, to where they're going to pack it in tight and they're going to counter attack, and they're going to, that leads to a lot of draws where they're just packing it in the defense, and then if they can get a run on you, that's the sort of ball that Nashville was playing last night. Because how many times do we see Lima turning and running and chasing, and even it happened quite frequently, and they played they used the game plan to perfection. What I'd like to see Austin FC do is not allow their opponents to dictate the pace of the match like they let Nashville do by and even though Austin had more possession, and I was sitting there, and there was a point in the first half that I was sitting there and I was like, man, it feels like Nashville has like 60-40 possession advantage because Austin. Well, no, it was just because Austin FC were never advancing the ball into their scoring third. They just were. It was pass around, and then the giveaway, and then Nashville would take off and try to counter and keep the ball down on their end for a while, and then Austin FC would do it again. So the possession was there for Austin FC, just the finishing product wasn't, and that allowed Nashville to dictate the pace and play the type of match that they wanted to play. Austin FC they're not a good enough club yet to allow another team to dictate the way that the match goes. The attacking still has to, it was still there. You saw it, especially after some substitutions were made in Stroud, which I have no idea why he wasn't in the starting 11 to begin with, but it may be a thing where Wolf is tinkering and playing around, but that guy is a catalyst. And I know I'll let you get into a little bit about the stuff with VAR and everything after the disallowed goal, but having a guy like Stroud in there that is dependable to link up with. Hosen, I'm sorry, I don't think Hausen is as much. Is it Hausen or Hosen? Either way, for me, I don't think he is starting 11 right now. Once
he's just not a fit.
Once Gallagher's fitness is up to wherever it needs to be, there's other options for guys up top right now, rather than having Hausen in there without the link up play, not making a play, not getting into position, not losing his mark on set pieces. It's just not working right now. Not that it can't work, but it doesn't seem to be clicking right now. And that is what I would want to have happen, is to get guys in there that are going to allow Austin FC to dictate the flow of the game, not play a reactionary type of football because you're always on your toes because you're giving the ball away.
Yeah, and I just don't think he's a fit for the style of this team plays. And that if this was a team that crossed the ball into the box a lot of aerial attack, then Hosen's probably a better fit. It seems he's more tailored for that style. We have seen him kind of get up there and get his head on the ball occasionally, and he's not a huge threat, but at least that's kind of the style for him, where the rest of the team doesn't really play that way. We're not seeing a lot of crosses into the box, except, like a corner kick, but that's just not their style. Yeah, Gallagher's got to start for me if he's healthy. And last night just kind of, I don't know, solidified my position that this team has to go get a proper striker this summer. If there's another designated player spot, have to spend the money on a striker. Although I guess we saw last night with Romagna going down injured, having to get subbed off. Cascante came on. He wasn't awful, but the goal happened immediately after the Romagna sub. So I don't know how much of that was just Beasler and Cascante kind of getting on the same page, kind of getting the back line sorted out. It also came from another bad midfield turnover. But we are talking about the defensive depth. And I haven't heard anything on Romagna yet about whatever, where his fitness is going to be for the Seattle match next week, which, God, that one is not going to be very enjoyable, I don't think. But
not without Romagna in the 11.
No, and that's what we're getting to the point where, Freddie Kleeman just went out on loan. So the depth, more players are missing from that back line, where it's like Klemanic, Beasler, Cascante, and Lima are going to be the starting four probably next week against Seattle. But then who's behind them? Maybe Romagna makes the bench, but it's just not, it doesn't bode well unless something clicks with the midfield and the attacking play. But we'll get to the kind of Seattle preview in a second, I guess. But you mentioned Stroud. I am 100% on board with I think we discussed this a couple weeks ago. He was kind of penciled in now to being a first 11 automatic selection. I think that's in marker. I think that's in permanent marker now that Jared Stroud needs to be starting every single match. And when he was picked up, there was a lot of consternation from New York Red Bull supporters about losing him. You can see why. you can see why he's such a promising young player, and
Oh yeah.
he just brings energy, and that's where I think it was his first couple minutes. There was a ball that was distributed out to that right side that was intended for Lima, and Lima just stood still, and it just flew right past him out of play for Nashville to throw in. And Stroud turns and is just yelling at Lima, like, what are you doing? And to see that, Lima's a guy that's been in the league a long time. There's a lot of experience there. And we can criticize
Yeah.
his performance, but that's a veteran of MLS. And then you have Jared Stroud taking that role immediately of saying, like, come on, man, like, you got to do better than that.
Yeah, this is Lima. I mean, he won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
A few years ago, he was nominated for Defender of the Year that year too. Like, it's not like the skill's not there. I don't know what's not clicking with him right now, because there's talent there, and it's not like it's never a positive thing with him, but it's just time after time I'm looking and I'm seeing him either chasing or, not, not getting back in time.
Well, like on the goal.
Like this. Yes. Yeah. Like that's his man. When you're on the field, who's marking who, and the guy coming down that side is the person that he's supposed to be back with. And when you watch the replay, you see Lima, who's creeping up towards the midfield line, trying to be there to advance the ball. And the way that the midfield was playing, that ball was never going to get to him anyway. But he's creeping too far up. He's sort of cheating up, trying to get forward. And then you just see him, he's 10 yards behind the eventual goal scorer, and out of position. So it's those little things that Austin FC are going to have to do better. The midfield play is going to have to be there. The link up play with the guys up top, whoever it is, if it's Hosen, if they move Pochettino up there, if it's Gallagher, whatever the option is to have somebody in that hold up role, something's got to change. Like, it can't keep being the same thing over and over again without because the attack, like I said, and for me, the attack really didn't hit at all until there was some substitutions made.
Right.
And the first half was just about as bland as of a half that Austin FC has played this year for me. So I don't know, man. The depth will be tested again against a Seattle team. If we want to just sort of transition to that now, that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, they're pretty, at least at this point of the season, by far the best team in the league. The depth, they're good in all facets, and it's a tough place to go play. It's going to be a tough trip. I'm not, we said with Nashville, like, yeah, you got to go get, the expectation should be go get a point. The expectation going into Seattle should be just don't get embarrassed, given what we've seen over these last couple of weeks from Austin. Just don't go get embarrassed, because it's not the end of the season. It's still early, still haven't even played at home yet. Just go, I don't know. It's an interesting team because they showed flashes against LAFC, even in that, the opening game, and you said, okay, this is, they can do something. Look at the way that they played against Colorado. Colorado's a team that's now past Austin in the standings and is in a playoff position and in the upper half of the Western Conference. And I don't know if it's, short of some of the defensive injuries, I don't want to start thinking like that Josh Wolf's like tinkering too much. It doesn't seem to me to be like that, because I think if the midfield plays better, we probably see a different kind of result last night. But I don't know. You kind of wonder, like they almost look like we talk about, you mentioned the expansion team aspect of needing to gel, getting more familiar, and they look like they had gelled earlier in the season, and now they kind of look lost. It's like it's going backwards. So,
when you hadn't played golf in a while and you go out there on the first tee, and you have a good hole because you haven't remembered all the bad swing thoughts that you have until the next. And it's like Austin FC went out there and it's like, hey, we kind of forgot that we hadn't they hadn't, they're saying we forgot that we haven't played together yet. We're just going out here and having fun. And it seems to me now like there's this realization like, okay, like we're in the middle of this season, we're playing some tough opponents, and we have a lot of growing left to do. It sort of seems like there's this realization now all of a sudden that, oh, we are an expansion team. And how do they respond to that? I mean, because coming up here, you've got a game against Seattle next Sunday in Seattle, and then you've got one more against Sporting KC on June 12th after that. So before they even get to their first match at Q2 Stadium. So these next couple of games are big. I mean, this is a really, really big couple of matches for Josh Wolf and this club to figure it out, because once they start to be able to play at home and get in front of that home crowd, things are going to feel right. It's one of those things where you're on the road this much, you never get a home game, and it's God, that just wears on you. Can wear on anybody.
Well, that's a great point too, because we have to keep that in mind when discussing like how this team looked the first few games to how they're looking now, and that they're 6 weeks in on an 8-week road trip basically. And I think it was mentioned last night on the broadcast, Kobe Jones doing the commentary mentioned that I think he said when he was with the Galaxy, they had to play a stretch of 8 straight on the road. And he talked about how difficult that was. And he was like, yeah, we didn't win a ton of games after that. Like it takes out so much of your energy, your mental aspects, like all those types of things, like just being on the road. You're not sleeping in your own bed, you're staying in hotels, you're on flights, you're doing all this stuff, not to mention all the COVID protocols and all those things. Like this team just needs to get home. The good thing is though, I think there's a 2-week break between the Seattle and Sporting KC trip. I think the international window falls in there. It's a week or two off, I think. So they get a little bit of a rest before the last road game, but still it's, we have to keep that in mind. I mean, it's an expansion team, a whole new operation that's spending, the first 2.5 months on the road. So.
Yeah. And I mean, these are just, the things that we're talking about right here. I think that there's a lot of people close to that organization that would tell you that these are similar to the things that they think that they need to work on too. I mean, these observations they're not meant to be, we're not bragging on these guys, but these are things that when you see a club coming together, that, when we talk about what the improvements that need to be made in order for this club to get to the next level, there are glaring issues right now, even to just overcome whatever's going on right now. There's some big holes in this club right now. And Wolf is, I feel like Wolf's a good manager. You already get the vibe that he's like a player's type of a manager because he was a player. I mean, obviously, with all the experience that he has on the men's national team and in the league itself, it's like, he's been around, so he gets it. Can he put the right recipe of players together to get the most out of the roster that he has? And can they take advantage of that designated player, that last designated player spot? That's going to be a huge deciding factor in the direction of the rest of this season, is if they can hit on that designated player that comes in, whether it's a defender, whether it's somebody, it's an outright striker up top, that has to hit if Austin FC expects to make the playoffs this year, in my opinion. And I just think that when all is said and done, when all of this gelling is done, what's the sort of feel that this club is going to get? We are going to get a taste for that real quick after that break, because the Seattle game, I'm sort of already I'm not going in with many expectations. But with a 2-week break against Sporting KC to try to get some points there, and then knowing that home game's around the corner, we're going to see what this club is made of real quick, Kerry.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think going into the Seattle game, I think going in with that kind of like, what do we have to lose mentality going up against a really good Seattle club. I mean, I'm not Josh Wolf, obviously, but like start Gallagher, make sure Stroud starts, start Fagundes, get some, let's start, maybe even start Berhalter. I mean, he showed some flashes early on. Like, why not use this kind of opportunity if you're like viewing it as, hey, we're not expecting to go up here and get a result out of this. Let's at least get some let's get some rotation going. Let's get some guys fresh and get as we head into the international break to kind of see what they have there. Get Romagna fit, just stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. It's a long season. There's a long
Yes.
way to go. And again, we're talking about this extended road trip here before this team even comes home, which was announced today that Q2 Stadium is going to be 100% capacity for opening day at home. So that place is going to be buzzing. It's going to be electric. And it's going to be an intimidating place to play. And so where Austin, they had to deal with a pretty big crowd in Nashville last night. Austin's been the team going on the road and dealing with hostile environments. Well, now the tables are going to get to turn a little bit, and they're going to get the friendly confines of Q2. But like, we've seen it now that they're allowing fans back in the stadiums in Europe. The energy that it provides a team, the belief that they have on the pitch when the fans are behind them, and for Austin FC to start getting that here in the next few weeks, like instead of being the that road warrior mentality, they'll finally be able to go like, all right, now we got the crowd behind us, and let's put on a show. So it's not all, season's not over. It's just getting started.
No,
But like you
yeah,
said, but you have to call it, like you see it. And that's, you haven't heard us criticize Brad Stuver.
right.
I mean, talk about a guy that's taken his opportunity, a journeyman that's now leading the league in saves. He's coming up with big saves at big moments. Like but
Saving penalty shots. I
saving
mean,
penalties, like
he's all over I mean, he's really, and we said this last week too, he's the MVP of the club at this point, especially as the season has gone on. He just continues to play that well game after game. And that would be, to me, that if you ask me, the player that's most important to, like, if this person was removed from the lineup, how would it affect the team the most? It would be him. I mean, for sure. I wanted to mention real quick, Mane also is somebody, Kekuta Mane is somebody also that has, when he's been like, he was like that instant fire starter as well. He's somebody that brings the speed on. He's the Gambian international player. Like, he's somebody else that I would like to see get a little bit more run in important spots. If spot, I mean, we're asking for a lot of guys to see the field here, and I know that there's a deep roster of talented players that all bring different things to the table. But that's somebody also where, sort of, in my opinion, in the pecking order of attacking players, I would rather see him more than Hausen, and I would want to see more of Mane. I would want to see more of Gallagher. I would want to see more of Fagundes in an attacking position. So yeah, it's there. I think the recipe, I think the ingredients are there. Like I said earlier, Josh Wolf is playing with this recipe right now, early in the season, early in the history of this club. How quickly he finds that winning recipe, will play a big part in how quickly Austin FC turns this around. And I think, like you said, getting some home cooking will definitely help with that.
Absolutely. Well, we're not too far from that now, just a few weeks, but we'll see how things look with Seattle this coming Sunday. So, well, man, let's get into like we said, we got kind of a short show today. Let's go ahead and get an update on the Sluggin Horns. We mentioned that West Virginia series was a big one coming in here or West Virginia coming to Austin, the chance for the Longhorns to, if everything fell their way, jump TCU only one game back and win a regular season Big 12 title. And that's how it played out. West Virginia won the first game of the series. It was a tough loss for Texas, but God, did they put the bats on West Virginia, those games 2 and 3 of that series. I mean, just absolutely clobbered them. And on the final day of the season, Kansas State got a win against TCU. So by means of the tiebreaker, Texas is the number 1 seed in the Big 12 tournament and wins the regular season. I know they're going to call it like a split championship, but Texas is the regular season Big 12 title holder now. So,
Congrats to Coach Pierce and that team. They've played really, especially coming out of that opening weekend, playing against that good competition, and you all of a sudden take a step back. And ever since then, they've shown that they are definitely a team that should be taken seriously and will be a threat to make it to Omaha and make some noise.
Yeah, I mean, conference tournaments can be a little weird. What do you think about this? It looks like right now it's going to be Texas is the 1 seed. We'll play either West Virginia or Kansas, whoever wins that lower seeded kind of play-in game type thing, if you will. I mean, seeing what Texas just did with West Virginia, and you have to feel pretty good about Texas going further in the Big 12 tournament. But how crucial is it for Texas to win this thing? I mean, it's you obviously want to, but there's really good teams in the conference, and I mean, how crucial is it for Texas to win this tournament heading into the NCAAs?
Win it. I don't need them. I don't think they need to win it. Just don't get sloppy. Don't stop doing the things that got you where you are. Just and I think Coach Pierce will just set it up to where everybody will stay on schedule with their pitching and with the guys that are getting days of everything will stay on. He'll just make sure that they're on their schedule. So nothing's going to get thrown off there. I mean, it's just a matter of how do you, because everything will line up to keep the Thursday, Friday, it's all going to,
right.
Coach Pierce is just going to do what he needs to do to be ready to prepare for the postseason after this. And I think Texas will do just fine in this conference tournament, but I don't think they need to necessarily win it to feel good about themselves going into hosting a regional.
Yeah, and Texas will be hosting a regional. I think that much is clear at this point.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess unless they I think even if they completely bomb in the Big 12 tournament, is that going to be enough to drop them out of contention for a super? I don't think so.
Not in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we're going to at least, I mean, just given the competition that they've been facing, I don't see Texas having too much of an issue getting out of a regional, but we'll knock on wood there a little bit. But yeah. But yeah, postseason baseball is here, man. College ball at least, and should be a fun one this week.
Always like postseason play. It's fun to watch because it's just with that added thing, the added element of, oh, this is it. If we don't win this, we're going home, and it just adds a little bit to it. Even if it's, it's just some of these teams that are playing are definitely playing like their lives depend on it. Their postseason lives depend on it because they do. Texas is fortunate enough not to have to worry about that. Like you said, I think even if they stink it up here, they're still in a position to host a super regional unless everybody else below them wins their conference tournaments, things like it. A lot would have to happen, I feel like, for Texas to lose that, being that top 8 national seed. But yeah, even though it's not as much on it for Texas, I still enjoy that sort of postseason environment. It even translates on television, in my opinion. It's just like the NBA right now. The NBA is going through this to where they added the play-in stuff, and it makes the regular season even less important. But those play-in games that was high-level stuff. Like, it's good television. I understand why Adam Silver and the league would want that from a financial perspective.
Right.
I get it. Well, if the Players Association goes for that in the future moving forward, that's still up in the air. But
right,
we did get to see. So it's just the sense that it's a postseason play, So that'll be fun to watch. It's always fun to get that, and if you have ESPN Plus, that's where you'll catch all of this action here for this tournament. So flip it on and watch some good baseball, because the Big 12 is a good conference. I mean, there's a lot of good teams in this conference. I don't know, when you look at baseball is always tricky like that, to where you see a ton of good teams, and then you look up and you look and see who's Omaha and who's in Omaha, and it's like, well, those are 3 teams there that I didn't necessarily think going into this that really even had a shot. Baseball is weird like that. You get in multi-game settings, and this team beats that team, and it's even I don't know. It's always fun to watch. Baseball's postseason stuff is fun. So
well, and it's we mentioned Q2 Stadium going to be 100% capacity for the opening game. I mean, Dish Falk Field is now, actually for this past West Virginia series was open for 100% capacity. So that's only going to help Texas and hosting a regional. I know those things are like technically NCAA ticket type things, but still,
Right.
The building's going to be packed really for the first time this entire season for Texas to have a true full building home field advantage. And especially in postseason play, it's going to come in big. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It's fire up the Big 12 now on ESPN. What is it they call?
Yeah.
Is that what they call it? The Big 12 Now package or something? Or
Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
get on. I've
enjoy.
been a Plus subscriber for a while, and the content on there now is picked up, especially with coming out of the pandemic, and a lot of places are looking for an outlet to air their stuff, and ESPN Plus has taken a lot of different content on. But the Big 12 stuff is what is really key for me, and being able to check in on some of that stuff. So Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus, brought to you by Green Lights, I think is what it is. Maybe not.
Oh.
I don't know. I'll have to check on that.
I thought we were a lead sponsor for that. Well, don't we? We need to make a call over there to. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that got lost in the paperwork or something. I don't know.
We'll have to talk to human resources and to marketing, and I'll call over to the big building guys later on today and see what's going on with that.
All right. Well,
I'll check in.
Oh man. Well, yeah, that's good. I think that's about it for this week, man. Anything else you got going on, Jay, or?
No, that's just hope for a good week of training for Austin FC. Get back out there against a really, really good Seattle team next Sunday. See what they're made of, man. This is tough times. This is where you see what kind of manager you have. If Wolf can bring them out, and not get their daubers down and come out to play, like you said, with nothing to lose against a really, really good Seattle team, that would talk about kickstarting a nice run.
Exactly.
Going to Seattle and shocking some people would change the smell of this season quite considerably up to this point. So just hope for a good week of training from them, and we'll see what happens on Sunday. But no, that was it for me. Just wanted to get that Austin FC bit in, and we talked some good baseball. So man, let's see if we can get it done.
Yeah, man, we'll have more next week, more Austin FC and some more updates on the rest of our local sports scene. So yeah, man, it's been good.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Welcome.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you.
ATX represent Fatal, baby.